Hey guys, Dave and Len here. This is War in the Falklands from Mayfair Games. This was released in 1982, and from what I've seen from some of the old magazines, is some people had gotten butthurt because this was released right after the Falklands War. I'm not going to get into whether they're right for being angry or not, but what I will say is the Afghan War and the Afghan and the Iraqi War. War games were released during the war, not just once, multiple times, and no one really complained about it. So I don't know. You can have your own opinion on it. To me, it doesn't really bother me that they released this right after the war. But as far as the game, there's two games in it. There's a 1914 game and the 1982 game. They're both very simple games, but they're both fun though. So that's good. And they did have the actual ships that were there and stuff. Not the most historically accurate game. It's basically an abstracted game, but yeah, I had a good time playing. What did you think of it? Len knows the history pretty well. I know the history of the 1982 part pretty well. You know the 1914 part, though.
Yeah. We played first the 1914 one, and actually I was surprised at how competitive it was. I wasn't, it's better known as a one-sided one, because one thing I've forgotten about is the British had merchant ships all through the area, and they were greatly concerned that Graf Spee was sucking them up one after the other. So, because when I played it, one of the things I did was I started herding the merchant ships together into one big unit, so that he couldn't, if he wanted to take a merchant ship, which were worth victory points, he had to fight my fleet.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a possible outcome. Actually, what happened was von Spee made the greatest mistake possible. He thought that, okay, he's going to stop on the way back home, he's going to blow up the radio station on the Falkland Islands and destroy the naval stores. And what happened was when he showed up, the battle cruisers were there with a full head of steam. They only need 20 minutes to get enough steam to pull up anchor. And the battle was on. And it was meant to be a one-sided battle, because this is the battle cruiser's finest hour. This is what they were designed for, to roam the oceans and sink every enemy armored cruiser that existed. And there's a story that since the British had broken the German naval codes, the British Naval Intelligence sent von Spee a spurious message that there were no ships in Falkland Islands harbor. And that's probably why he decided to attack them. Bad move. He fell for the trap.
Yeah, the 1914 game wasn't bad. It was I think it was 12 turns. It played really quick. The Germans essentially had hidden movements, so the British kind of had to guess where the Germans were going to be next and stuff. And the Germans had to position themselves somewhere where they'd hopefully intercept some convoys that either were unprotected or had very little protection. The British ships overall had much more combat power than the German ones, so in a straight-up fight between the two, if it was like equal odds, I mean, the Germans didn't stand a chance. But however, if they caught a merchant ship with just like one escort with it or something, well, maybe they could do something, but...
Yeah. One thing is also when you're playing the battles, it's like, you never worried about armor penetration. The light cruisers can damage the battle cruisers if they get a good enough die roll.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you never worried about coaling, because I'm not sure how many, there are 12 turns, but I don't know.
What's coaling? Actually putting coal in the steam engine?
Yeah, keep the fuel, because fuel was a major concern at the time. And most games on this period, you worry more about the fuel in your ships than...
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I don't know what the terms represent, days, hours, or whatever. They don't quite say. So
it sounds like they always had enough fuel to keep the thing running. You're talking about not having enough fuel to keep it running at full speed, I think you mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because
to keep the boilers at maximum heat.
In this campaign, they were traveling vast distances. This is not like the North Sea. We're only a couple hours away from recoaling.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
About the 1982 one.
Yeah, 1982 one was fun. It was about as abstract as you could make it. It was the most simplified version of a Falklands 1982 game you could possibly have. I mean, it had the major ships, the major aircraft, and the infantry units and stuff. Wasn't really much more difficult to play than like an Axis and Allies game, really. It's in some ways a little bit simpler, and in some ways a little more complex. But yeah, it was really simple. I mean, literally anyone could figure out how to play the 1982 game or the 1914 game in this. So I mean, in that sense, it's good because I mean, beginners could play it. You don't have to be someone who's played 30 war games before this in order to understand it.
Yeah, it highlights, like. Some of the weapon differences, like certain units have missiles, so they fire first and can inflict damage first.
Yeah, like the Harriers.
Yeah, the Harriers have Sidewinders, and well, the Argentines has, I think, 1 or 2 units that have exocets, and I noticed, I did hit a ship, and I did hit a carrier, damaged one.
During the real war, I think they hit 2 ships with exocets and sunk them. I think they were both sunk. The one was the Atlantic Conveyor, though, which had extra Harrier GR3s and helicopters on it and stuff. So, I mean, that really hurt the task force bad then. I think they only had 1 Chinook then in the entire theater. They called it Bravo November or something like that. And it was like flying nonstop during the ground campaign. I mean, it just kept transporting troops coming back to refuel and stuff, so...
The British lost 2 destroyers and 2 destroyer-esque frigates or something, plus the Atlantic Conveyor, and I think 1 landing ship. I don't know.
Yeah.
NATO
when they were in that harbor there, they took a lot of hits by the Argentine aircraft.
NATO allies complained about the British losing too many valuable ships on this stupid adventure.
I don't think it was a stupid adventure, but one thing that they didn't really simulate that well in this is the Argentines had bombs that were meant for bombing ground targets, and when they would hit the ships, they would go through the ship and go right out the other side and not detonate until they were like 100 feet away from the ship. So they hit a lot of ships with bombs, but didn't do much damage. But a few did end up hitting something that would start on fire or something, and the British lost some ships from it. But if the Argentines would have found out that the reason they were having trouble destroying these ships was because of the fusing they did on the bombs, they would have just changed their fuses, and the British probably would have lost the war. But the British were able to keep that secret that the Argentines were using the wrong fuses.
Yeah, they lucked out on that. Mm-hmm. It's always in war. There's one little detail that can change everything.
Yeah.
And that was the one detail for the Argies.
Mm-hmm.
We sang "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" a lot.
They had brave pilots, though. I mean, in the bombing role, I mean, they were able to hit their targets and stuff, and they were brave.
They were better than your average Third World Air Force. They were competent. They did very well in overwater navigation. Mm-hmm. Now they could fly at low level over water and arrive on target, and so it's against the big boys they would have had a problem, but they were adequate enough. The only thing they really needed their pilots is they needed the air-to-air combat training. It seemed like they didn't have much of it, so that's why the Harriers did so well. Well, one reason the Harriers did so well is because it had the AIM 9L Sidewinder, which was the first Sidewinder ever made that actually worked correctly. So they had that angle too.
Yeah, so they had that going for them, and most of the Argentine aircraft didn't have any infrared missiles on them or anything. And when they were leaving the target area, they weren't like flying in like mutually supporting positions and stuff where they could protect each other with their guns. So the British had a field day when they'd catch those aircraft. Yeah, because a lot of times when you do the bombing run, after you drop the bombs, you get the hell out of there. There's no, it's you race out of there. Right, yeah, but the problem is they're racing out often solo and stuff, and then you get jumped by 2 Harriers, and the Harriers would just destroy the A4 Skyhawk without him even knowing that the Harriers were anywhere nearby. Well, because a lot of times what happens was if 2 like A4s going first,
the wingman waits until the other guy drops his bomb, and then he starts his bombing run, which gives the British like a 10-15 second advantage over them. Can get and so they can catch up with him before the other guy is in any position to offer mutual defense. So.
All right, anyhow, do I recommend this? Yeah, I recommend this. You could probably pick this up for $10, $15 on eBay. I don't think it would be much more than that. Yeah, it's worth playing a few. Well, you get more than a few plays out of it. You could probably play the 1914 game 2 or 3 times before you start getting bored of it. And 1982 game, same thing, 2 or 3 times. Would you recommend it?
Yeah, but think of it as a simple beer and pretzels game.
It's just an abstract game.
Yeah, if you're doing like want something to the level of like Harpoon, you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. Or if you're looking for a very close simulation of the actual war, you're not going to get that out of this game. This is a game just meant to be played for fun with a historical flavor, basically.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.